You know, there's one deck I haven't talked about yet in Master Duel, and that would be the Ritual Control deck. Hi, it's Local Dragon Lady here, and I'm going to talk about my Ritual Control deck on Master Duel, because as we all know, it's a 1-of format. There is no best 2 out of 3, so you cannot go to a side deck to make adjustments accordingly to who you're going against. And I've been getting requests about, hey, do you have any updates to your Ritual Control deck? Well, yes and no. I am experimenting with changes, especially with the Dogmatica ritual cards, because they add more control elements to the extra deck, which is really good. If I have a profile that in the future, I'm not really sure, but let's just focus on Master Duel right now, because again, it's a completely different format. So this is what I've been doing, and it's quite successful. It can get you to platinum rank very easily, and it's very versatile. So we're starting off with the Divinator of the Herald. So we're not using it for the secondary effects because it's a tuner, and you can change the levels it has depending on what card you send to the graveyard. So you normal summon this monster, you can send a fairy from your extra deck or main deck to the graveyard, and we have a lot of options for that. For the Incampation engine, yes, I'm still using imps because I'm not gonna lie, they're really good getting around hand traps. The only hand traps that can kill this one, unfortunately, would be Drone Lockbird, but I'm not gonna lie, not many people play that in Master Duel. They favor Maxi and Ash, and that's all I've been seeing. So we're using 3 pencil plumes, so you reveal the ritual monster to get this going, or if it's summoned from the deck, you can search. I mean, you can recover a ritual monster from the grave, which is really important. 3 candles, so you reveal your ritual magic card to get the engine going, or if it's summoned from the deck, you can search your deck for a ritual monster. 3 bookstones, you reveal a ritual magic and recover one from the grave if it's special summoned from your deck. And 3 talismandras, so you reveal a ritual monster from your hand to get it going, or if it's summoned from the deck, you can search your deck for a ritual monster. So these cards can pretty much get you anything and recover anything you want. 1 artifact Lancia. A lot of decks rely heavily on banishing, and where this card is a fairy, it is searchable through a certain ritual monster that I have. 2 Lava Golems. This is one of those cards you would normally side deck, but I'm playing in the main deck because you only get 1 shot at this. Lava Golem is really good because it is a level 8, and I do have some ritual monsters that require exactly or more level 8 monsters to get out. So this is really good if you happen to go second. I prefer to go first, but if your opponent gets out a very nasty board that can limit your play, Lava Golem can take care of that. And as an added bonus, you can, it will burn your opponent for 1,000 life points during the next main phase. The only problem with Lava Golem is if you use this, if you summon this on your opponent's side of the field, you will not be able to normal summon. Now, there's not a lot of normal summoning in this deck, but there are a few key monsters in this that can, really get things going that are almost win conditions. So yes, if you use Lava Golem, you will not be able to normal summon your Divinator of the Herald. Vanity's Ruler. Oh my god, this card is devastating. The only out that most people have for this card is if they have a Lightning Storm or a Regeki. So yes, once this card is normal summoned, because that's the only way you can get it out, your opponent cannot special summon monsters at all. But you still can, so this is very one-sided floodgate, and it's a fairy, and it is searchable, and it's easy to normal summon because incantations, they all, once you get the engine going, they special summon 2 monsters simultaneously. So you can just go into Vanity's Ruler once you search it out. 2 Zaborg the Mega Monarch, level 8. Normally I have 3. I mean, you can still fit 3 here if you want. You want to make this to a 41 card deck. That's okay, but 2 seems to work fine. This is really, really good, especially with the Incantation engine. So what happens is, once you get 2 imps out, it's a lot more effective if you use a light monster for the tribute. So your normal tribute summons will board the Mega Monarch, and what happens is you use the effect to target itself to destroy itself. And what happens is you get to go into your extra deck and your opponent's extra deck, and you send monsters to the grave based on the level of the monster that's destroyed. So because we're always using both the Mega Monarch as a target, he's a level 8, meaning that you're going to send 8 cards from each person's extra deck to the grave. Well, as much as possible, but 8 as the maximum. So even if your opponent has like less than 8 cards left in the extra deck, you basically send the whole thing. Now, if the tribute material happens to be a light, at least one light monster, that means you get to go into your opponent's extra deck monster, look around, and you choose what to send to the graveyard. So if you send the right extra deck monster to the grave, that could be a win condition in on itself. I had many people just surrender based on this move. Now, you send cards to your graveyard as well, and you know, this extra deck is pretty loaded. They all have, well, 99% of them have grave effects, so I will show you those in a moment. Now, we're going to get to the ritual monsters. All right, Necros of Unicorn. This is a deck, a card that I used aside years ago. This used to be my main deck in the TCG a while back. But he's really good in Master Duel, because once this guy's ritual summoned, he negates the effects of all of your opponent's extra deck monsters, including links. Everything. And he's 2300 basic, which is not that bad. I prefer to get him out on the second turn. If I have to, sure, I'll get him out my first turn if I have no other options. But yes, if my opponent gets, you know, a lot of fancy monsters out, summon this guy and they're all turned off. All extra deck turned off. Cyber Angel Benton. You will not be summoning this person, this girl, this lovely fairy at all. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be using this as tribute material, because once it's used as a tribute material for anything else, you get to search your deck for a fairy monster. So once you go to the grave for a respective summon of something else, you can search for your Bandy's Ruler, you can search for your Defender the Herald, and you can search for your Artifact Lancia, which is amazing. So yes, nice little lady right there. Odd Eyes Gravity Dragon. Level 7 ritual. This is a sleeper ritual that people, I don't think, it's being underrated here. And this is one of the best ritual cards, I think, ever. Once this guy hits the field, he's basically a giant Tyrannade. All of your opponent's back row cards has to be returned to their hand, but they cannot respond to it. Doesn't matter. So the only way they can really negate this is if they were to negate the actual ritual summoning. So we use the ritual summon card. They can negate that and he can't come back. But once it's the field, that's it. It's game over. Like your back row is gone. It's gone. But the best thing about this is, as long as this card stays on the field, your opponent must pay 500 life points to activate each card effect. This can be devastating in the late game, because if you were to get your opponent's life points down to like 2,000 life points or so, once this guy comes out, that means your opponent only has a limited number of times they can use card effects. Because this is not a burn effect, this is a pay to play effect. So 2,000 life points, that means your opponent can only, use 3 card effects, because once they get into 500 life points or less, you cannot pay, because the thing is the rule, you can't pay life points and put yourself down to 0. So they're stuck. They really are stuck. That's the huge difference between burning and paying with life points. 3 Incampation Chalice Slime. This is one of the most important cards in this deck, because it synchronizes with synergizes with the rest of your incantations. This is the card that can get the engine going if you don't have anything else. Like, even if you don't have any of the regular imps in your hand, this guy is still a lifesaver. So you reveal this card in your hand. You can ditch himself or something else. I recommend something else. You can special summon Incantation from your deck, and depending on which one that you summon from the deck depends on what will you recover something, will you search something, and that can mean all the difference. Now you can ritual summon him, although I don't really do that, but I mean, if you didn't use the previous effect, you can send a incantation to the grave and you can target a card and destroy it. The tricky thing with this card is that once you use the reveal effect, if you do not ritual summon afterwards, you will get burned for 2,500 life points. So make sure you can ritual summon before using this effect. So yes, Aphramorpher Pain, the Imagination Drake Overlord. If you're playing any kind of ritual deck, mishmash, this guy's essential, and he's the reason why I prefer to go first, because if I don't know what my opponent's playing, this is a great way to find out. You can search him up with your engine. Once this guy hits the field, your opponent must skip their first main phase 1. So it's their turn, they have no monsters in the field, so they go to battle phase, can't do anything, so everything has to be done in their main phase 2. And this is where you find out all the information about your opponent's playing. And another great effect is all fusion, synchro, and XE monsters are negated, so if they do try to get those monsters out, they are turned off. Unfortunately, they can still use link monsters, but that's okay. I mean, the purpose of this guy is to find out what your opponent is doing. And the thing is, this effect, the first effect, is a condition. So once this guy hits the field, if your opponent were to have a counter effect to like destroy this monster, it doesn't matter. It does not negate that effect. So once he hits the field, that's it. Their main phase 1 is gone. Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, I'm not the Dragon Man, I gotta have it. But in this format, he's actually really good, especially in Master Duel. Like, this guy's amazing. He's a 4,000 beat stick. You can't target or destroy him. And as added bonus, he does double piercing damage. So if your opponent were to put him in a face down defense position or change something in defense position, this guy's going to do massive damage. And he's still a difficult card to get around. It's not impossible, but your opponent has to go through a lot of resources to, out this card. So Chaos Max Dragon, still really, really good. Shino Baroness Peacock, the First Lady. All right, she's a level 8 ritual monster, so she can, you can use your Zaborg if you have to, your Lava Golem to get her out, Incantations to get her out. Once she hits the field, you can shuffle 3 back row cards back to your opponent's deck, which is really good. Now, your opponent can respond to this, but if they don't, it's amazing. It doesn't, because the problem with the Odd Eyes, when you put the cards back into their hand, well, they can just use them in their next turn, but not her. They're back to the deck, and that can throw a real big wrench in your opponent's plans. She's also a spirit, so what happens in the end phase, she's going to go back to your hand, and you replace her with 2 tokens. And if the tokens stay there, well, you can use them for, tribute fodder to get her back out again. And Shino Baron Peacock, the Boyfriend. Boyfriend is probably the one I use the most. When he's the field, he can bounce 3 monsters back to your opponent's hand or extra deck. And the great thing about this, it's non-targeting. So I don't know, if your opponent were to get a Chaos Max out, for example, Boyfriend can bounce Big Boy back. So this is why he's probably one of the most useful monsters that I use the most in this deck. And he's also a spirit, so he's still going to come back to your hand and replace with 2 Shino Bird tokens. Now, magic cards, Preparation of Rites. I'm only using 2 of these. Again, normally I use 3, but, I gotta make room for, Lava Golems. So I'm using 2. You add 1 level 7 or lower ritual monster to your deck, and you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. So if you already use something, that's great. You can just get it back from the grave to your hand. Level 7 or lower. This is primarily for the Chalice Slime to get to your hand, but it can also search out the Odd Eyes and even your Ben 10 and your Unicorn. So this card is very, very useful in this particular build of the deck. 2, Preparation of Rites. This is to search out both your Boyfriend, First Lady, and their calling cards, the Shino Bird's Calling, which I have 2 of. So the Shino Bird's Calling allows you to ritual summon specifically these 2, the 2 peacocks, and the levels can equal or exceed, which is super important because you don't have to worry about making sure they are exactly, right? And this is where Ben 10 comes in. You're going to use the calling card to use Ben 10 as a tribute material to get out Boyfriend or First Lady, so that way in turn you can search your deck for one of your fairies, your Vanity's Ruler, your Divinator, or your Artifact Lancia. So that's why this card is important. Now, that's the only 2 cards that Preparation of Rites can search for. It cannot search for Chalice Slime, or the Incampation Inception, because it does not specifically mention the cards in their hand. Like, they have to have add 1 ritual monster and a ritual spell that specifically names it in the text, so not going to work. For Draw Power, Pop Extravagance, you're not summoning anything in your extra deck. You can't really if the Incantation is on your field, which is something I should mention. If one of these guys are on your field, you know, you are locked out of your extra deck. And which is kind of amusing, because there have been occasions where I had a opponent maybe try to steal one of my Incantations or revive one from my graveyard to the side of the field, and they realize, I can't go into my extra deck unless I get rid of it. So that's an added bonus with these guys. So you know, declare 6, you draw 2 cards. This card is just really, really good. I already mentioned Shinobu's Calling, and another amazing card, Incampation Inception, which adds on to this engine. This allows you to ritual summon any ritual monster you want, but the tribute materials has to be incantations. And this card is just ridiculous, because once this card is in your grave, what you can do is activate its effect in the grave. So you basically add this card from your grave to your hand, but to do so you had to send an incantation from your hand or field to the grave, and in turn summon another one from the deck. So again, depending on which one that you summon from the deck allows you to search or recover. And this is just amazing, especially when you're using a combination with your Child Slime. If you're able to get a Child Slime and an Inception in your hand at the same time, or if one's in the grave, you can do almost anything you want. It's incredible how, you know, how they synergize with each other. Now the extra deck, I mentioned that it kind of has a purpose. You're not summoning anything. So we have 3 copies of Elder Entity Entis. This is mainly for the effect of Zabor, because you're going to send 8 cards to the grave. So when Entis is in the grave, it allows you to pop a card on your opponent's side of the field. It could be a monster, it could be a back row, doesn't matter. I have 3 copies of Fossil Warrior Skull Knight. Once per turn, you can banish this card from your grave, and you can target a monster your opponent controls, and you can destroy it. Really good. Herald of the Arclight. It is a fairy, so you can send this to the grave off the effect of Devere the Herald, and same thing with Entis. Entis is also a fairy. So normal summon Herald, you can send a Entis or a Herald of Arclight to the grave. When this hits the grave, you can search your deck for a ritual monster or a ritual magic card, and it's not once per turn. If you send all 3 of these to the grave at the same time, that's 3 searches you get. And it's the same story with Entis. If all 3 are gone to the grave, you can pop 3 cards. Really, really good. When Pegasus Enixter, this is another one people sleep on. They seem to think it's only good when you're playing Enixters, but it's not. Once this card hits the grave, if your opponent were to destroy a card that you control, well, if they destroy a monster you control by battle or card effect, you can banish this card as a chain, and you can target a card your opponent controls and just shuffle it to the deck. And it does not matter if it's a monster or a back row. That's right, you can banish, target one card your opponent controls. So if they happen to have like a floodgate in play, back to the deck it goes. Psi Frameward Omega. This is really good. Once it's in the grave, you can activate this effect to return this card and a card in the grave back to your deck or extra deck. So it allows you to recycle anything else. Tri-Brigade Ferret the Baron Blossom. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. This is a recent addition I added to it. You don't need to play Tri-Brigade to get this effect. Once it's in the graveyard, you can draw 1 card, and you can place another one to the bottom of your deck. So if you know, it adds a mild form of customization. So if your hand isn't that great and you send it to the grave, so okay, I can draw a card and I can put one that I don't need into the bottom of the deck. Or if you have your Incantation engine in your hand, so well, you know what? I can use this turn to draw a card and search for the one that I'm going to send to the bottom of the deck. So yeah, I really like this card a lot. I'm hoping to get this in real life for the TCG. And because, 15, Black Luster Soldier, you don't have to worry about this. This is just a random card I added to get the deck up to 15. You can add 2 Tri-Brigades if you want to. But yeah, on rare occasions I've had summoned this because I had an opponent who used card effects and negate everything on my field. So that included the incantation. So if they're negated, okay, you can use them to link off into Black Luster Soldier. He's a 3000 beatstick link monster. So I'm like, why not? So there you go. This is what I am playing right now in Master Duel for the Ritual Control deck. And yeah, I like it. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this profile. And just for fun, I'll just add a replay at the end of this, so you'll see how versatile this deck is and how some of the control elements can throw a wrench in your opponent's plan. So remember, always to be a good sport, to play the game, not the fame, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!